What's up, guys? Welcome back. Are you serious right now? Stop that. Stop it. God, I've had it with these burps. Oh, alright guys, do your faces look like poop? Not your actual face, I'm talking about the ones that you draw. I'm sure your face is beautiful. Anyway, so I wanted to do a bit of practice in my sketchbook this morning, and I thought, wait a minute, why not share that with you guys so that we can learn and grow together so that our faces no longer look like poop. Anyways, so here I'll walk you guys through the process, show you guys some of the practice work that I did this morning. My focus was on faces because faces are tough. As you guys can see, the first page here, the very first warm-up is a bunch of skulls. Understanding how the human anatomy works plays a big part in being able to draw your face as well. Portraits of other human beings, I would say, is probably one of the hardest things that you can draw because our brains have this natural ability to recognize faces. We are very sensitive to things that don't look right on someone's face. We're very perceptive of other people's expressions. We're very perceptive of the way their faces are constructed because it's really life or death. If you're one of our ancestors and someone's looking at you like they might be trying to kill you. That's why when you're drawing faces, if one tiny thing is a little bit off, the whole thing is gonna look off. Even after many years of drawing and practicing the human portrait, I still find that my faces look off sometimes. And I always have to go back and practice just to remind myself of the fundamentals that are required here. So just to briefly talk about these skulls, I try to draw them from different angles, and you can see here that this whole sheet took about 10 minutes. We're gonna be going at a very fast pace for this, and we are only using lines and very, very basic shading. The reason for this is because I'm not necessarily focused on rendering here. I'm just focused on being able to draw something, being able to capture it accurately, and doing it comfortably. Because, you know, we all get uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes you might see the face in this kind of angle, and you're like, whoa, what the hell is even that? So these are very nice and rough. You know, they're not very detailed at all. There's a lot of lines here that are more gestural as opposed to technical. And this is kind of the way that I like to draw in my sketchbook. I don't like to use my eraser too much. In fact, I don't think I erased anything that was on this page. 3/4, front view, 3/4, side view, a back view, and this skull right here is probably the most challenging one of the bunch, mainly because we're seeing it from a very unconventional point of view. And it's important that when you're practicing, do not run away from scenarios like this because you want to put yourself through some challenges. Look, you gotta make yourself uncomfortable, all right? You gotta do things that are challenging to you because that's the only way you're gonna grow. I want you to think of this kind of like getting your reps in at the gym. Each one of these pages is one of your sets, and every single drawing is a rep. And through these repetitions in these sets, this is how you grow your artistic muscles. That's how you get huge. So after the first 10 minutes of skull practice, I decided to move on to our next page. Well, I didn't decide. I didn't have a choice. The page was full at this point. Anyways, so I felt pretty good. I was warmed up. I went straight into drawing faces and practicing a bunch of different heads. And you can see down here, this took about 20 minutes to complete. Essentially, what I do is I pull up a series of Pinterest reference images and I go through them one by one. I try to get as many as possible. It doesn't matter if I like the reference or if I don't like the reference. As long as I can see all of the facial features and the reference images are relatively high resolution, it will definitely work as a solid practice piece. So 20 minutes for this means these were about 3.5 minutes each. Some might have taken longer, some might have been shorter. Again, we are speed, lightning McQueen. When you're doing these repetitions in your sketchbook, you gotta remember to keep up the pace. You never want to get caught on one drawing and fixing it over and over again. If it's just not working out, it's time to move on. Definitely set a timer. Be aware of the amount of time that you're spending on each drawing. So overall, looking back at this page, I'm pretty happy with this one. This one, I think this one's all right, but there could be some improvements here in the jaw area. I think I fumbled that a little bit. This one here is decent, but I do think some of the proportions on the face didn't really match what I saw in the reference. I really do like the stylization in the front side of the face here, but I felt like some of these lines were a little bit stiff. But here's one thing that I noticed when I was doing this page of sketches, and that is, especially for this drawing and this drawing here, I felt like I was getting a little bit more tense, especially for these lines that outline the sides of the face here, and even over here as well on this guy. My hand, my pencil, it wasn't really moving in a way that was more free. And free is how I like to draw. You know, I like free. I like me a bargain. So because of that, I decided to change it up a little bit. So here's what I did next. These drawings that you see right here are called contour drawings. But essentially, this is one of the most OP methods to get yourself nice and loose, nice and limber and flowing like Squidward. A contour drawing basically means that you set your pencil down on one point of the page and you flow through this entire drawing without lifting that tip up. So basically, each one of these portraits here are constructed from one single very long and twisted line. And this method here does absolute wonders to just help you loosen up and get your hand moving in a way that's a little bit less rigid. And that's another important point. When you're practicing, you don't want to just do it brainlessly. You guys see how I noticed my stiffness in the previous page, so I decided to change directions and go for a different style of drawing just to get rid of that stiffness. I still have the stiffness in my hips though. God, it's But this is one thing that I like to call mindful practice, okay? You just keep your brain open, observe what you're doing, and if there's something in your drawings that you're actually not happy with, you gotta make a note of that. Be like, okay, this is what's causing the issue, and what can I do to potentially address that? So in the previous pages, I noticed stiffness in my lines. In the next page, we are doing a contour drawing to eliminate that stiffness in my lines. And throughout this entire process, something else that I really wanted to work on was simplification and stylization. So that's kind of what I moved on to next after I finished loosening up with some nice contour drawings. And this little contour drawing detour here only took about 10 minutes. Lightning McQueen. Now on my next page of drawings, this page we spent about 13 minutes on, and the focus for these drawings was supposed to be stylization, but I really wasn't happy with this first one. The second one has a little bit of charm, but it wasn't really the best. The third one, this one I actually really liked. I felt like this worked pretty well, and one thing that I did differently here than the other drawings was I focused more on the overall shape of the head. I think there was a little bit more thought put into this one. It was just a little bit more intentional. Now coming down to the fourth drawing, I feel like I kind of lost my way there a little bit, even though it is stylized. It's not really done in a way that I really enjoyed, you know? I tried to really go for that weathered look, but instead of that, I got constipation. Fourth drawing is okay. I tried again to be a little bit more intentional with my shapes, but I don't think this was the right shape to use for this drawing. I feel like all of these drawings, aside from this one here, left me wanting a little bit more. Like, I know I can push the stylization more, but I wasn't really pushing it in the right directions. So guess what? We had to make another pivot. This is the next page. I was gonna just scrap this page, but I was like, you know what? I gotta face my responsibilities. So what I did is I pulled up some reference images of Disney concept art. So I just tried to refresh my mind on the way they stylized the characters, on the way they pushed their proportions, and I tried to apply some of that to the references that I was using on Pinterest of real people. Yeah, I mean, this one's alright, but I do feel like, again, the shapes could be a little bit more intentional. And then after I finished this drawing, I was like, I don't like it. I just tried to copy the proportion of the Disney face, and you can see I have failed miserably here. This looks like it was drawn by a toddler. I'm sure my ancestors saw this and were like, oh, shame for display. Here's the real gem. Okay, let me show you guys the next page. I mean, if y'all have a sketchbook, I'm sure you guys have pages like this too, where it's just failure and pain. But I was like halfway through and I was like, this ain't it. I, again, was not intentional enough with my shapes. And I think at this point I started to realize, I was like, I gotta do something a little bit different here. I gotta start with a clean slate. I'll come back to this page eventually. I'll fill it up with other things. But right now, I can't, please. So with a heavier focus on stylization, that brings me over to our next 10-minute page. So that's about 2.5 minutes per drawing. And in this one, I tried to be as intentional as possible with my shapes. And I think it definitely made a big difference here. Something else that also made a big difference was that contour drawing page. It just loosened me up. I became limber. And you can see that with a lot of these lines, they really just start to flow into each other. Take this one, for example. There's a sense of energy in these lines that just was not there before. And I'm really happy with this page because you can definitely clearly determine the shapes of these characters, the shapes of their heads. Stylization on this guy, for example, squishes the front of his face and accentuates this largeness of his head as well as his second chin. The stylization here is a lot more purposeful. It's not just stylization for the sake of stylization. And I tried to really carry that into these other drawings as well. So this one, for example, I really wanted to emphasize the roundness, and to accentuate that, I shrunk her facial features down inwards a little bit. Coming over to this one here, I wanted to really capture this expression and this powerful shape of the mouth. And I do think this one works really well. There's a lot of life to this character. This man here is going to be a lot more rugged. He's got much more angular shapes in his face, and there's a level of hardness to this character that I think you can tell from the stylization as well. So I think this page worked really well, and I really wanted to carry this momentum forward with another practice sheet. Onto the next sheet, you can see I don't know. I think this drawing here on the right, it's got to be my favorite drawing by far. The middle one's okay. The one on the left, I think I focused too much on the expression and less so on the stylization. I feel like the proportions and the shapes that I used here were a little bit less purposeful when compared especially to the other two portraits on this page. So that was the final sheet of practice that I did, and there's definitely a lot of room still for growth. And I'm going to try to keep this up. I'm going to try to do a little bit of practice every single day just to, you know, get my brain going, make it a little bit more challenging for myself. But if you guys want to do this yourselves, you want to do some kind of practice, similar to this. You don't have to focus on stylization. You don't have to do what I've done here. You guys can pick something else that you're interested in. Maybe it's expressions, maybe it's anatomy. Whatever the case, pick a subject you want to focus on and be very mindful of what you like and what you don't like about your drawings as you're drawing them, so that during the duration of your practice you can kind of pivot in different directions to meet your own needs. And if you are truly a freshly born, a new art baby, you're slimy like a tadpole, there are a couple things here that I think can help you out. For the tiny babies out there, okay, this is how I like to construct my heads. We'll start with an oval shape, okay, find the center line coming down, shield for the front of the face. That's the shape of your head. You're going to see a lot of other artists do this as well. This is just one of my favorite methods. It's always worked for me. Find that center line, find the shield shape, and that'll be the front of your face. So always be aware of this round shape for the top of this cranium, because this is where your brain's going to go. I see too many people draw their characters with just the face, and then the top of the head, you know, looks like that. And it's like, dude, what is, huh? Are you drawing the Easter Island statues? You know, if you want drawing to be a little bit more believable, you want to draw a little bit more accurately, you want to give your characters a good old big cranium. Boom. Some other things to keep in mind as you're practicing is, let's say you've drawn a absolutely beautiful eye and now you're freaking out, you're panicking, you're like, what do I do for the next one? Well, first of all, you shouldn't have done this in the first place, but if you did, okay, just measure the length of this eye over here, and that's going to be the start of the corner of the other eye. Now we need to take the length of this eye and move it over, and the length of the other eye should be equal to the length of this eye. You can draw some lines here to support where the top and bottom lid would be, and you should be able to mimic the other eye. What I don't want you guys to do in this case is use the symmetry tool, okay? Never use your symmetry tool. I want you to actually practice trying to make facial features symmetrical. It's a good skill to have. And because our brain is so good at recognizing human faces, if you do use the symmetry tool, it creates such a stiff look that it's not even believable. Okay, so please don't do that. This is only your last resort though. If you are going to draw eyes, I recommend finding an eye line here, okay, and then just drawing your eyes one at a time. If you're going to draw the upper lid, draw the upper lid on the other eye. If you're going to draw the iris, draw the iris in the other eye. If you're going to shade the iris in the other eye. Now, if you want to draw the double eyelid here, also draw it on the other eye. So you're kind of just moving between these two at the same time, and this is one of the best ways that I find to make your eyes look consistent on your characters. Other things to keep in mind as you're drawing in your sketchbook is to avoid chicken scratching your lines. Try to make it as purposeful as you can. You know, you can practice this in your own sketchbook. Now, I personally love drawing messy. All of my lines are messy. I never have super clean lines where it's just one single smooth flowing line. That's not really how I work. So you got to figure out how you like to work. The best way to do that, again, is just with a lot of repetition. And one final thought that I want to leave you guys with is to just not butt your head into a brick wall, both figuratively and literally. Do not do that. Maybe you want to learn muscles, but you don't want to just sit down and slog through hundreds of Pinterest references of muscular men. But think of ways to make it fun. You know, maybe instead of just random muscles, go find that one dude in the K-drama who's just ripped and just draw pictures of him nonstop because you love him and you're obsessed. You know what I mean? Maybe you want to draw portraits, but you just can't find the motivation to sit down and draw a bunch of portraits. That's fine. Go find that one character that you really love from your favorite anime or your favorite movie. Try to draw them. You know, make it fun for yourself. Do something that you're genuinely passionate about. I think that's the most important. At the end of the day, you gotta enjoy it. And if you're not already drawing right now, close YouTube down. Stop it, okay? Pick up a pencil. What are we waiting for here? You want me to come over there and destroy you? What is it? Just do it. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope it was insightful. I hope it was helpful. And now it's up to you to make some beautiful drawings. Or drawings that look like poo, you know, whatever floats your boat. But remember, you never have the masterpieces without the poo. Every single masterpiece that you see is built up on a mountain of poo. Remember that. I'm serious. Oh, would you stop it?